Moeo. M-O-E-O. It means make the most of every opportunity. And we've been talking a little bit about fear. And as I've been talking about fear and writing about fear, I started to realize that so much of dealing with our fear comes down to humility. Are we able to be humble with ourselves and get past our ego? See, fear makes us feel vulnerable, but we don't want to show vulnerability. We want to be strong. We don't want to portray to other people that we're vulnerable. So we put on a face that we're not. And that's not humility. Humility is understanding that you are vulnerable. Understanding that you're not the most important thing. That it's not always about you. And humility, when we learn to be humble, when we live in humility, we can so much easier work through our fears. I've found that when my ego's in control and I'm lacking humility, when something happens that makes me anxious or fearful, I just tend to cover it up or run from it because I don't want to deal with it, because I know it makes me feel vulnerable. But when I'm really truthful with myself and understand that through vulnerability, I can make a difference in my life, that's when I'm strong. That's when I'm able to defeat fear. See, when we're not vulnerable, we refuse to look at ourselves. To deal with fear, we've got to be able to look deep at ourselves, see where we're vulnerable, see where we need work, and then take the time to go to work. But if our ego's in control, we won't do that. So for me, it comes down to vulnerability and getting rid of my ego. I understand that when I feel like I'm in control, I'm in the least control. I understand that I need to be vulnerable. And for me, it comes down to realizing and understanding that there's someone else I've got to trust in, that I've got to put my faith in. And I always go back to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. When I lean on my own understanding, I start to be attacked by fears and anxieties that are perceived. And those perceived fears are so difficult to deal with because they're really not something to fear. So if you struggle with fear, we've been talking about the last few days, understand that one of the keys for me is humility. To understand that you need help, that you need to trust in someone higher than you. And for me, I trust in God. And you can work through fear through the power that God gives you. You have the opportunity every day. Moeo it. Make the most of every opportunity to break through the cycle of fear.